the narcissistic relationship ends, and the aftermath can be devastating. For many survivors, the healing process involves picking up the pieces of their shattered sense of self and trying to make sense of the trauma they endured. In the midst of this turmoil, a profound question arises. Where was God in all of this? If the divine being is all-knowing, all-powerful and just, why did he allow me to suffer at the hands of a narcissist? Why didn't he intervene? Or why didn't he protect me? These are valid questions born out of pain, confusion, and a deep sense of betrayal. After all, how could a loving God stand by and watch his children suffer? Let's unpack these questions together, keeping in mind that this is a complex theological issue that has challenged theologians and philosophers for centuries. First off, I want you to consider the following. Do you remember the movie, The Shack? It's based on a novel of the same name. In the film, a man named Mac Phillips is grappling with the pain of his youngest daughter's murder. As he struggles to reconcile his faith with the horrific event, he receives a mysterious letter inviting him to a gathering at a shack, which turns out to be the site where his daughter was killed. Initially overwhelmed with grief and anger towards God, Mac confronts the divine at the shack. What happens next is nothing short of transformative. Instead of receiving the answers he expected, Mac meets the Trinity in a most unexpected and intimate manner. God the Father is portrayed by an African-American woman, the embodiment of both strength and unconditional love. Jesus is depicted as a Middle Eastern carpenter, emphasizing his connection to humanity and suffering, and the Holy Spirit takes the form of a vibrant young woman representing energy and life. Through this unconventional experience, Mac learns profound lessons about faith, forgiveness, and the true nature of God. This cinematic journey is not merely a tale of religious devotion. It's a profound exploration of the human condition, touching upon themes of grief, loss, faith, and the relentless pursuit of hope, even in the darkest of times. Importantly, Mac's story highlights the complex relationship between faith and suffering, a central theme in our discussion today. The film doesn't shy away from portraying the raw emotions that arise when tragedy strikes, and it delves into the depths of a father's love and his struggle to understand why his daughter was taken away. Now let's bring this into our discussion. God's silence in the face of human suffering, including narcissistic abuse, can be perplexing and even maddening. Yet it's crucial to understand that silence isn't the absence of presence. Just as Mac initially felt abandoned by God, many survivors of narcissistic abuse find themselves questioning their faith and wondering why they were subjected to such intense manipulation and cruelty. The Shack, however, offers a different perspective. God's silence is not indifference. Rather, it's an invitation to a deeper understanding of divine love and justice. Think about it. If God were to intervene in every instance of human suffering, it would disrupt the free will that he has given us. Life on earth becomes a place of constant divine intervention. Free will ceases to exist, and the essence of our humanity is diminished. We would no longer be able to make our own decisions, to grow, to learn, and to choose love. A universe devoid of free will is a universe without genuine love. Love in its purest form can only exist when there is the freedom to choose. In addition to this, God's silence allows space for human compassion and empathy to flourish. When faced with suffering, we are called to action. We have the opportunity to be God's hands and feet in the world. We can offer a helping hand, a listening ear, or words of comfort. Our capacity for empathy and compassion becomes a testament to our humanity and our connection to the divine. In moments of crisis, we have the chance to reflect our Creator's love through our actions. So when we encounter the darkness of narcissistic abuse, instead of demanding divine intervention, we can channel our faith into action. We can seek out therapy, join support groups, educate ourselves and others, and advocate for change. we become instruments of God's love in the world, bringing light into darkness. However, there is a profound biblical truth that we must acknowledge, and that is, God doesn't always deliver us from our present circumstances. But this is where the beauty of divine justice lies. God's ways are not our ways, and His timing is perfect, even if it doesn't align with our human understanding. In the Old Testament, the book of Job is a testament to this truth. Job, a righteous man, suffers immensely, losing his children, his wealth, and his health. Throughout his trials, Job questions God, seeking answers. However, God doesn't offer explanations. Instead, He reminds Job that he is but a creature, and God is the Creator. In the end, Job receives double what he had before. But the emphasis is not on material blessings, but on Job's steadfast faith and his recognition of God's sovereignty. The story of Job teaches us that sometimes God allows us to walk through the valley of suffering, not necessarily to teach us a lesson, but simply because He respects our free will. Our faith is strengthened not by avoiding trials, but by enduring them. Divine justice also finds expression in the power of forgiveness. Many survivors of narcissistic abuse struggle with feelings of anger, resentment, and a desire for retribution. However, the Christian faith calls us to forgive, not for the sake of the narcissist, but for our own spiritual well-being. In Matthew 5:23, Jesus teaches, "If you are offering your gift at the altar and there remember that you have a quarrel with someone, leave your gift there before God and go and reconcile with your brother. Then come and offer your gift." This passage underscores the importance of prioritizing reconciliation over religious rituals. Forgiveness is not a sign of weakness, but a powerful act of strength and healing. By releasing our anger and bitterness, we break the chains that bind us to the narcissist and their toxic behavior. We reclaim our emotional well-being and set ourselves free from the burden of resentment. Finally, God's justice is ultimately vindicated in the concept of eternal judgment. The narcissist who delights in causing harm in this life will ultimately face divine consequences. This isn't about earthly punishment, but about the spiritual reckoning that awaits. In Revelation 21:8, it states, "But the cowardly, the unbelieving, the vile, the murderers, the sexually immoral, those who practiced witchcraft, those who worship idols, and all liars, their part will be in the lake that burns with fire and sulfur, which is the second death." This passage makes it clear that those who inflict pain and suffering on others will face a severe consequence. Eternal judgment serves as a reminder that our actions have consequences and that true justice will be served in the end. This doesn't negate the very real pain experienced in this life, but it offers the assurance of ultimate resolution. In conclusion, the silence of God in the face of narcissistic abuse is not an absence of care, but an act of respect for human agency and divine order. It is within this silence that we discover the true meaning of faith, resilience, and divine justice. So when we find ourselves questioning God's presence during our darkest hours, let us remember the profound lessons embedded in the silence. Embrace the power of forgiveness, find strength in unwavering faith, and trust in the ultimate vindication of divine justice. Your healing journey is not solely dependent on external circumstances. It begins with recognizing the depth of your pain and ends with the promise of a future free from toxicity and full of hope. Remember, you are not alone in this journey. Reach out to support groups, connect with survivors, and lean on your loved ones. Together, you can navigate the complexities of healing and emerge stronger than ever before. And when you feel disconnected from the divine, open your heart to the profound truths embedded in the silence of God. In that silence, you will find the strength to heal, the faith to endure, and the hope for a brighter tomorrow. Look through the Bible and you'll Notice a pattern. God lets the proud climb high but only to crash even harder, because God opposes the proud but gives grace to the humble. A narcissist's entire identity is built on false elevation. They lift themselves above others, make gods out of their own image, and treat people as pawns. But Scripture says in Proverbs 16:18, pride goes before destruction, a haughty spirit before a fall. What God does to revenge the narcissist is not always immediate fire from heaven or dramatic exposure. No, it's more poetic. He lets them run long enough to hang themselves with their own rope. He lets their ego write checks their soul can't cash. He lets them build a tower like Babel tall, intimidating only to scatter it with one breath of divine judgment. While you're healing and rising, they're decaying from within, even if it looks like they're thriving on the outside. I know how hard it is to believe this when you are the one who is suffering, when the narcissist is winning and you are hurting, but that's exactly when we need to anchor ourselves to truth. Because if you hear these words, God is taking care of them, and you believe them deep in your soul, then it frees you to stop carrying burdens like, I have to fix them, I have to punish them, I have to get them back, I have to tell everyone what they did. You do not have to do any of those things, because God is a far better judge and a far more ruthless executioner than you could ever be. Look at Saul, the original narcissist king. Insecure, power-hungry, and manipulative, he tried to destroy David, God's anointed, over and over. But what happened in the end? Saul fell on his own sword. David, the one he tried to kill, became king. That's God's revenge. It's not just punishment, it's a reversal. A divine exchange. The very ones who set traps for you will fall into them. Psalm 7:15 says, he who digs a hole and scoops it out falls into the pit he has made. So if you've been abused by someone with narcissistic patterns who made you feel less than invisible or disposable, understand this. God is not ignoring them. He is setting a trap, a spiritual reversal, and your healing is the first sign that the trap has already been sprung. This truth sets you free, but to truly believe it, you have to see it at work. So let me walk you through 5 ways God executes on the narcissists in your life, so you rest easy knowing you getting the last laugh. No. 1. They become bored. This may sound trivial, but boredom is hell for a narcissist. Do you remember the times when you had to keep them entertained? You were a puppet in a never-ending game of emotional charades. But here's the thing. Narcissists aren't actually interested in having fun. They want to be the center of attention. They want people around to admire and fuel their ego. But the moment they realize that the spotlight isn't solely on them, they get bored. And guess what? God turns people against them. When that happens, their life becomes a desolate desert of loneliness. And no amount of Botox, luxury cars, designer clothes, or Instagram followers can quench that thirst. Remember, a narcissist's main motivation is being superior to others. And when you take away the admiration and the validation from others, all you are left with is an empty shell. They're like a plant that needs constant praise to grow. But once the compliments stop, the plant wilts. Now imagine spending your existence like that. Imagine feeling like you're nothing without the constant affirmation of others. Doesn't that thought bring a smile to your face? Number 2, they lose interest. How many times have you rearranged your whole life to accommodate the narcissist? You dropped everything to respond to their text or call, even if it meant abandoning your own responsibilities. But now, think about how things might change when the tables turn. What happens when the person who always demands attention starts ignoring you? The irony is not lost on God. He sees how you've invested your time and energy into someone who wasn't worthy. So now he allows the narcissist to experience the same neglect they inflicted on you. Suddenly, they are the ones waiting by the phone, yet no one calls. They chase after the spotlight, but no one gives it to them. Remember the classic story of King David and Goliath. David was a nobody in the eyes of King Saul, yet God chose him to defeat the giant Goliath. In doing so, David became famous throughout Israel. But Saul couldn't handle the fact that David was getting all the recognition. He became jealous and wanted David dead. That's why David had to escape into the wilderness. But guess what? While David was hiding, Saul chased him relentlessly, going from bad to worse. Yet David became famous, while Saul ended up alone, defeated and tormented by his own demons. Narcissists hate losing interest and attention. It makes them feel powerless and humiliated. When God turns them into the one being ignored, they lose their minds. No. 3. Their mask slips. When you are stuck in a toxic relationship, it feels like wearing mirrored sunglasses. You can't see through the lens, but everyone else does. But when God steps in, it's like the sun suddenly shining directly into those sunglasses. The glare is blinding, and the mask slips. You start to see who they really are. Let's use the example of a deceitful boss who mistreated their employees. They might seem competent and respected on the surface, but behind closed doors, they are exposed. Everyone sees their true colors. They might lash out, panic, try to put the mask back on, but the damage is done. The secret is out and the facade crumbles. And when this happens, you remember who you're dealing with. The narcissist doesn't admit their mistakes. They don't apologize. If they're caught, they blame it on others. Narcissists are masters of disguise. They hide behind masks of perfection to manipulate those around them. But when God exposes them, the illusion is shattered. People see through the cracks and flaws. And my friend, that is sweet justice. No. 4. They are replaced. Imagine you've spent years building a house, investing your time, money and emotions into it brick by brick. It's your pride and joy. Then suddenly it burns down. Can you imagine the devastation? That's what happens to the narcissist when God replaces them in people's lives. You were once irreplaceable to them, the one and only. But guess what? God specializes in making replacements. In fact, He's the ultimate replacement. Think of it. Adam and Eve were in the garden until they sinned. Then God kicked them out, bringing in animals to take their place. He then made new homes for humanity. The story repeats itself in the flood, when God replaced the wicked with Noah and his family. Even Pharaoh was replaced by Moses. In the same way, He replaces toxic relationships in our lives. When a narcissist leaves, God sends someone better. When a narcissist cheats, God orchestrates a beautiful new romance. When a narcissist abandons you, God brings supportive friends into your life. And here's the best part. These replacements are permanent. Once God removes someone, they're gone for good. There's no second chance. The door is closed and locked as they try to force their way in, but their key no longer works. And that, my friend, is divine revenge. And finally, number 5, they die alone. Many people are afraid of dying alone. They fear facing eternity without someone by their side. But for narcissists, that fear is a reality. Narcissists live in a bubble of self-absorption. They rarely consider the needs or feelings of others. They push people away, leaving them with a trail of broken relationships and shattered hearts. But there's a deeper problem. Narcissists can't empathize or connect with others on a genuine level. They can't offer comfort or understanding in times of need. They leave people feeling unseen, unheard, and uncared for. And when their own time comes, they are met with silence. The irony is breathtaking. They spent their entire lives seeking validation and attention, but in their final moments, they are utterly alone. No one comes to say goodbye, no one offers a kind word or a helping hand. They die alone, just as they lived, in a world of their own making. And let me tell you, there is no greater torment than that. So the next time you feel angry, bitter, or helpless against the narcissist in your life, remember these truths. God sees, God cares, and God acts. Your pain doesn't go unnoticed. Justice is coming, and when it does, it will be oh so sweet. Until then, keep healing, keep growing, and keep believing in God's perfect timing. In the intricate game of divine retribution, there's a twist you may not have considered. God, in His infinite wisdom, doesn't immediately unleash His vengeance on the narcissist. Instead, He orchestrates a sequence of events that leaves the narcissist to face the consequences of their actions, while God attends to the most crucial aspect of healing you, His masterpiece. Let me explain this further. God's primary focus isn't merely punishing the narcissist, it's healing you. Why? Because revenge alone doesn't fix a crushed spirit. Restoration does. You see, when God begins to move in your life, He doesn't start by going after the narcissist with thunder and lightning. He starts by building you back up from the inside out. Ezekiel 36:26 says, "I will give you a new heart and put a new spirit in you." That's what He does first. He removes the lies they planted in your mind, the ones that said you're not enough, not lovable, not worthy. God removes the poison of manipulation and replaces it with peace. The narcissist tried to break you, but God uses that very breaking point as the place of rebirth. But how do you think the narcissist reacts to this unexpected turn of events? In the book of Job, Satan made a bet with God about Job's faithfulness. Satan thought he could make Job curse God if he took away all his blessings. But Job didn't. He held on to his faith, and eventually God restored everything to him, even giving him twice as much as he had before. Similarly, when God starts restoring you, it's like Satan's plan falling apart, because God turns the tables. You don't just get what you had before, you get more. And the narcissist who thought they had you figured out finds themselves in a position they never anticipated. They expected you to stay in the same place, keep reacting to their manipulation, keep trying to fix them, keep tolerating their abuse. But that's not where God is taking you. He's got a much grander plan. Think of it this way. The narcissist is like a fisherman who spent a lot of time setting up their bait, waiting for the perfect moment to cast their line. But right as the fish takes the bait and tries to reel it in, the fisherman loses their balance, falls into the water, and the fish swims away. The fisherman's empty-handed. The narcissist spent so much time devising ways to control you, to manipulate you, to break you, thinking they had it all figured out. But the moment you start healing, the moment you start walking away from the chaos, you become the one who got away. They lose their biggest source of supply. When God breaks the chains of manipulation, you stop being their source of narcissistic supply. You stop dancing to their tune, playing their game, and that's the most devastating blow to them. They thrived on your reactions, on your efforts to please them, on your tolerance of their abuse. But without those reactions, they're left with nothing. They don't have the energy or resources to go after you. They can't chase you down because they're stuck dealing with the consequences of their actions. They're empty-handed, defeated, and they have no one else to blame but themselves. Think of the narcissist as a bird trapped in a cage. All its life, it's been in that cage, and it's used every trick in the book to make sure the door stays locked. But someone comes along, sees the bird, realizes it needs help, and starts bringing food and water to the bird, talking to it, befriending it. The bird initially thinks this person is there to harm it. After all, why would anyone approach its cage? But slowly, The bird realizes this person has good intentions. It starts opening up, coming closer to the bars, trusting this person. Then something incredible happens. The person opens the cage door and steps aside. The bird hesitates, looks at the open door, then spreads its wings and flies away. The moment the bird chooses to leave the cage and fly, the cage door magically fixes itself, locking the bird back inside. The bird can look back and see the person who set it free. But it's too late. The bird's soaring free, and the person who set it free walks away knowing they did their part. They don't need to chase the bird. They don't need to convince it to fly. They don't need to fight the bird to stay. The bird's choice sets it free. And that's how God revenges the narcissist. Not by making you bitter, but by making you better. Your joy becomes their judgment. Your wholeness becomes their warning. If you resonate with these insights, please let me know in the comments. Also, remember to like and share if you believe someone else might find value in these teachings. Thank you for watching. They always say God is on your side. But when will he take action? When will he do something? Because often we feel like the bad guys are winning. The truth is, God is never on our side. God is in his own side. We are on our side. He is on his side. And he will come in when the battle lines have been drawn. You see, God has a way of exposing people when they least expect it. It's not just about punishment. It's about revelation. There comes a point when God says, enough. He pulls back the curtain. Everything they did in secret, everything they hid, everything they tried to sweep under the rug, everything they thought they got away with, it all comes to light. That's not karma. That's divine justice. In Luke 12:2, Jesus said, "There is nothing concealed that will not be disclosed, or hidden that will not be made known." So if there's anything the enemy and his demons try to conceal, to hide, to bury, God will bring it to the surface. Why? Because there is no secret that can remain hidden forever, no lie that can go undiscovered forever, no sin that can go unpunished forever. God will expose it. You may think the narcissist is so clever. They built this big, beautiful facade. Everybody applauds it. They've convinced everybody. Even you were convinced for a while. But God sees right through it. He sees right through the mask. He sees right through the manipulation. He sees right through the evil and the deception. And he has a holy habit of tearing it down, exposing it, making it known. It may come through public disgrace. It may come through internal breakdown. Sometimes it's a total loss of influence. Sometimes it's a public display of their lies. Whatever it looks like, make no mistake, it comes. And it comes when God knows you're ready to witness it without falling back into fear. But again, God's revenge is redemptive. He doesn't just expose to destroy. He exposes to warn, break cycles, protect future victims. The narcissist may seem untouchable for a season, but when God's justice hits, it's undeniable, inescapable, and irreversible. So what should you do until then? What should you do while you're waiting? Well, the same thing you should have done from the beginning. Keep healing, keep forgiving, keep rising. Do not live in the pain of the past. Do not allow the enemy to keep you stuck and stagnant where you are. Move forward. Let forgiveness flow from your heart, not because you condone what was done to you, not because you think what was done to you was okay, but because you want to release yourself from the grip of bitterness. When God acts, you will not need to prove anything. You will not need to explain anything. You will not need to justify anything. When God's judgment falls, it speaks for itself. It will expose the evil that was hidden. It will vindicate your truth. And you will not need to fight anymore. You are set free to live. You are set free to love. You are set free to be whole. You are set free to forgive. You are set free to forget. You are set free to move on. Healing takes time. Rising above takes effort. Forgiving takes strength. But when God avenges you, it is swift, it is powerful, and it is permanent. So keep living, keep breathing, keep moving, keep rising. Don't put your life on hold. Don't allow the enemy to steal your joy. Don't allow the narcissist to continue to be the boss of your story. You are writing the story. God is in it with you, and when the time is right, He will handle the tyrant. Your job is to keep living. You're not the one swinging the sword. God is, and His aim is perfect. You may not see the arrow, but it's been shot. You may not hear the clap, but it's been clapped. You may not see the explosion, but it's happened. Trust in the fact that when it's God's turn to fight, He does not miss. You don't need to do anything. Just believe in the righteousness of God. Trust in His justice. Rest in His timing. Wait patiently, not anxiously, and you will see Him move, not in ways you would, not in ways you could, but in ways only He can. Because vengeance is His. Justice is His specialty, and when He steps in, no one can stop Him. No one can stop God. Have you ever read a story in the Bible and thought, "Oh my gosh, if that happened today it would be front-page news"? Well, today we're looking at one of the most breathtaking acts of divine revenge. When God turns the tables, He elevates the humble and brings down the proud. He takes the overlooked and makes them overcomers. He takes the victim and turns them into a voice. That's what happened with Job. After all his suffering, abuse, betrayal, loss, God didn't just restore him, He doubled what was taken. When you think about this story, you may have questions. Why did Job's friends treat him that way? Why didn't God stop Satan earlier? Look, I get it. If someone treated you poorly and you watched them get rewarded, you might think life is unfair. But here's the beautiful part. This story doesn't end there. Let me remind you of what we read. Satan said to God, "Does Job fear God for nothing? Has he not made a covenant and an oath that he will maintain his integrity? I will not fear God in the presence of all that he has made. For he has said, I will receive good things from God. No doubt, there is no curse on my inheritance." Then Satan replied to the Lord, "Behold, Job is putting you to test, and he is tempting God by saying, 'Will God really bless me? Will He multiply my silver and gold?'" But take a look at verse 21. He had a prosperous and abundant household, with very many sheep and cattle. The irony is that Job loses everything: his health, his kids, his reputation, his livelihood, and yet he still maintains his integrity. The true victory comes when God restores his fortunes, not because Job deserves it, but because of God's compassion. In fact, God rebukes his friends for trying to limit God's power and wisdom. Later in the book, Job recognizes his own limitations and asks for a second chance. And guess what? God grants it. Now, God never promised Job that bad things wouldn't happen. He just promised that he would be with him through it. When God eventually asked Job to put his finger on where he was unjust, Job realized he didn't know God as intimately as he thought. When you come to the end of yourself, there's only one place to go: up. This is why the story of Job is so relatable and inspiring. It reminds us that no matter how difficult things get, God is still in control. But what should you do while you're waiting for God to turn the tables? Let's look at 3 key principles. First, remember that God sees more than what meets the eye. Second, focus on faith, not feelings. And third, don't waste time on revenge. Let's start with number 1. God sees more than what meets the eye. We often measure our success based on external factors, like relationships, job, status, or money. But God looks at the heart. He sees your motives, your faithfulness, your endurance, your willingness to forgive. God sees the truth. He knows your capacity to handle more. He sees your potential to be a blessing to others. So don't define yourself by what you've been through or what you currently possess. Define yourself by what you stand for, your values, your commitment to excellence, your love for people, your pursuit of justice. These qualities are timeless. They transcend circumstances. They speak to your character. So what do you stand for? What do you believe in? What kind of person do you want to be? Your response is important because it reveals your heart's desire. Second, focus on faith, not feelings. Feelings will betray you. One moment you're feeling strong and optimistic. The next you're overwhelmed with fear and doubt. Feelings are like the tides, constantly shifting. Faith, on the other hand, is anchored by God's word. It's rooted in His promises. It's anchored by His character. The Bible says, faith is the assurance of things hoped for, the conviction of things not seen. So when the going gets tough and the road seems dark, focus on God's promises, not your feelings. Trust in His word. Even when it feels like He's silent, lean on His strength. Even when you feel weak, rest in His love. Even when you feel abandoned, remember, your feelings may change, but God's faithfulness never wavers. So anchor your faith in God's word and let it guide you through the storms of life. And third, don't waste time on revenge. Revenge is like taking poison and hoping it kills the other person. It's an act of retaliation motivated by anger and resentment. It's a desire to inflict pain on someone who has caused you harm. Revenge is a natural human response to hurt. It's the instinct to retaliate, to strike back and seek justice with your own hands. But here's the problem. Revenge is like a heavy rock you carry with you everywhere you go. It weighs you down. It steals your joy, your peace, your freedom, and it keeps you stuck in the past. You'll keep replaying the hurt over and over in your mind, hoping that somehow this time you'll do things differently. But guess what? That never happens. The past remains unchanged, and neither do you. Revenge is a dangerous path. It leads to more pain, more anger, more bitterness. Instead, choose forgiveness. It's not easy, but it's worth it. Forgiveness doesn't excuse what was done to you. It doesn't mean you forget. It doesn't mean you condone it. It simply means you release the burden of anger and resentment that's weighing you down. Choose forgiveness, not because they deserve it, but because you deserve peace. Now, it's important to recognize that God's timing is different from our own. He sees the big picture and knows what needs to happen. Sometimes His plan involves allowing us to endure for a season. Other times He steps in sooner. Either way, we must trust in His wisdom and His character. Our role is to walk faithfully in obedience to Him. You may feel like the narcissist stole your time, your energy, your confidence, but watch what God does next. He rewrites your story. What was once a scar becomes a spotlight. People begin to ask, "How did you survive that?" And your answer is simple. God fought for me. Isaiah 61:7 says, "Instead of your shame, you will receive a double portion." That's not a metaphor. That's a spiritual guarantee. As long as you remain faithful, forgiving, and focused, God will do the rest. And yes, sometimes He lets you see the narcissist's full knots so you can gloat, but so you can testify, because your story will set others free. God's revenge isn't fire from the sky. It's healing that glows. It's vindication that's public. It's peace so deep that even the narcissist can't explain it. It's promotion in places they tried to keep you from. The tables are turning. Not because you fought, but because God always fights for His children. As you reflect on these words, I want you to hear them again. As long as you remain faithful, forgiving, and focused, God will do the rest. Your growth and healing are not dependent on the narcissist's downfall. That's God's responsibility. Your part is to keep moving forward. Don't let the enemy steal your joy by making you wait. Keep your eyes on the prize. Stay committed to your healing journey. Trust in God's promise of a double portion. Also, please take some time to write out the main points I shared today. And as you pray, ask God to help you remember them. Commit to living by these principles, and then watch what happens. Your life will change in ways you never imagined possible. Thank you for watching today's video. I hope you found it helpful and encouraging. If you did, don't forget to share it with your friends and family. And as you do, may God's words ignite a fire within you, reminding you that you are stronger than you think, and that your best days are still ahead of you. Until next time, may God bless you and keep you in His loving care. Maybe you're watching this with tears in your eyes, wondering if justice will ever come. Maybe you still feel the sting of betrayal, the confusion, the shame. Let me tell you something straight from the heart of heaven. You are not alone, and you are not forgotten. God is not silent. He is strategic. The pain the narcissist caused wasn't the end, it was the beginning of a divine transformation. You don't need to seek revenge. You don't need to explain yourself to anyone. You don't need to prove your worth. All you need to do is rest in this truth. The Lord will fight for you. You need only to be still. God is already working. While you're watching this video, He's orchestrating a divine reversal. Your peace is coming. Your joy is returning. Your strength is being renewed. And the narcissist who thought they could destroy you, they're about to see that God doesn't play when it comes to His anointed. So breathe, let go, and let God. Because the most powerful revenge isn't fire, it's freedom. It's the glow you carry after the storm. It's the story you share when others think you should have fallen. You are the living proof that God's justice is real and it's right on time. Welcome to Kingdom Vision Studios, where we help you discover who you are and whose you are. I am here to talk about what happens when you leave a narcissist and you don't get the closure you want. I can tell you from personal experience, there is no worse feeling than wanting to close the door on a chapter of your life, but being unable to because the narcissistic person refuses to give you closure. Like many survivors, you may find yourself constantly thinking about the narcissist, wondering why things happened the way they did, searching for answers to questions that seem to have no replies. The problem is that closure is one thing we have no control over. Closure is something we have to receive, and it is something we have to receive from another human being. But when that other human being is a narcissist, then closure becomes an impossibility because narcissists simply don't give closure. It's like trying to grab smoke or trying to hold water in your hands. You can reach out and try to grasp it all you want, but the more you reach, the more it slips through your fingers and the emptier your hands become. When it comes to getting closure from a narcissist, you may find yourself stuck in a loop of confusion and frustration. You may find yourself questioning your own self-worth or doubting your own judgment. You might wonder if you imagined the abuse, or if you are making a mountain out of a molehill. You might start to blame yourself for not being able to move on. And if you have any doubt that what you experienced was really wrong, you will struggle even more when you try to break free of the manipulation and get on with your life. Many people tell you to just forget about it and move on. That's easy for them to say because they didn't have to deal with the kind of toxicity that you had to face. And the fact that you are struggling means that what you went through clearly had an impact on you. But here's the good news. You don't have to let the narcissist win, even if you don't get the closure you want. Here are 3 reasons why. No. 1. You don't need closure to heal. We often think that we need the narcissist to validate our experiences, to admit their wrongdoing, to apologize, to show remorse, to make things right. But the truth is that none of those things are necessary for us to heal. In fact, if we wait for these things to happen, we will be waiting forever because narcissists never change. One of my favorite Bible verses that speaks to this is Psalm 34-19. The righteous person may have many troubles, but the Lord helps him or her through all of them. The righteous person may suffer, but the Lord does not abandon them, and he or she has hope to live again. Notice it says that righteous people have troubles. It doesn't say that they have a lack of closure, but notice how this verse also reminds us that the righteous person has hope to live again. Hope to live again. What a beautiful phrase. I love this scripture because it speaks to the power of hope, a hope that isn't tied to circumstances, a hope that isn't dependent upon the actions of others, but a hope that is anchored by an unwavering belief in the goodness of God. Think of a caterpillar, which transforms into a beautiful butterfly. Does the caterpillar need an apology from the cocoon it was in? Does it need the cocoon to acknowledge that it was restricting the caterpillar's growth and development? Of course not. The butterfly understands that the cocoon served its purpose, and now it has time to spread its wings and fly. Similarly, your season of transformation is here, and whether the narcissist apologizes or not, whether they take responsibility or not, whether they show remorse or not, it's time for you to spread your wings and fly. Healing is not something you have to wait to receive. It's something you choose to step into. No. 2. Closure is not forgiveness. Many people assume that closure is the same as forgiveness, but they are two different things. Closure is about understanding. It's about knowing why things happened the way they did. Forgiveness is about releasing the negative feelings you have toward the narcissist. You can't control whether the narcissist gives you closure, but you always have the power to choose whether you forgive them or not. And the truth is that you don't need to forgive to move on. In fact, sometimes forgiveness is something we only consider because we think we have to forgive to move on. But the truth is that forgiveness is a choice you make for yourself. It's not something you do to make the healing process easier. Forgiveness isn't about excusing what the narcissist did. It's not about saying what they did was okay. It's not about condoning their behavior. It's about releasing the bitterness, anger, and resentment you feel toward them. Think of it this way. If you had a physical wound, would you keep it open? Or would you close it so it could heal? The same is true with emotional wounds. When you refuse to forgive, it's like keeping the wound open. You're constantly reopening the wound. Every time you think about the narcissist, or every time you're reminded of what they did to you. But when you let go of the need for revenge, when you release the bitterness and anger, you're closing the wound. You're allowing it to heal. Now, it's not that you forget what happened. You don't pretend that it didn't happen. You don't ignore the scars. You acknowledge what happened, and you accept that it's part of your story. But you don't let it continue to define you or dictate your emotions. No. 3. You don't need closure to move on. Moving on isn't about forgetting what happened. It's not about pretending that the pain you felt didn't happen. It's about accepting what happened, learning from it, and growing from it. Many survivors stay stuck because they keep revisiting the past. They keep thinking about what the narcissist said or did. They keep asking themselves why. But when you choose to move on, you stop asking why and you start focusing on what next. You don't have to wait for the narcissist to apologize, to make amends, to acknowledge their wrongdoing. You can make that decision yourself. You can choose to forgive them, not because you think what they did was right, but because you want to release the negative feelings you have toward them. You can choose to move on, not because you forget what happened, but because you want to focus on creating a new future for yourself. Look, I understand how hard it is to let go, especially when you don't have closure. It's like trying to put a puzzle together without all the pieces. You don't have the whole picture. but you have to trust that the picture is complete and that you are a part of it. But here's the thing. You can't wait for the narcissist to give you the piece of the puzzle you're missing. You have to make the decision to trust that the picture is complete and that you are a part of it. You are more than enough. You are beautifully and wonderfully made. You are valuable. You are loved. You are cherished. You are important. And you deserve to be treated that way. You're watching this video because you've been through something painful, something that has left you feeling confused, hurt and betrayed. But I want you to know that you're not alone. And what you're going through is not your fault. Someone else's bad behavior is never your fault. It's easy to blame yourself and to ask why this happened to you. But the truth is that you're strong, you're resilient, and you're worthy of love and respect. If you enjoyed this video, don't keep it to yourself. Share it with others who need to hear this message. Remember, you're amazing. Don't let anyone ever tell you otherwise. And please subscribe to our channel for more videos like this one. Thanks for watching.